Glacier Bay might have felt majestic to the other cruisers on the observation deck, but its desolate chill broke my heart. Why had I sacrificed a week of summer to drift toward the Arctic Circle? And why didn't I have cell reception? My grandma Sarah was dying back in the Bronx. My parents were at her side, holding her hands and reciting prayers to comfort her. I could only scowl at the hulking ice caps, pace the walking track, and wait for my phone to ping. Having sprinted to the deck whenever the satellite map in my cabin showed a cell tower, I tipped over the railing with my arm extended, waving my phone into the edge of the world. I nearly fell into the Gulf of Alaska before accepting that we'd lose cell service for a while. When Canada emerged on port side, I braced myself for a text bearing bad news. Instead, my mom had written that Grandma Sarah had rallied and was asking for chocolate pudding. She held on for 2 more weeks. So I vowed that when Grandma Phyllis showed signs of decline, I would not be distant in any sense. I was so attached to her as a child that I called her Grandma Mommy and Nanny Bird, after Big Bird's grandma on Sesame Street. She and I resemble each other exactly. Nothing could stop my trips to visit her. Nothing short of a pandemic. Grandma had practiced for decades what the CDC has only lately advised. She never touched a public bathroom doorknob without a paper towel. She let library books and anything borrowed sit for a while before she used them. If she were under the weather, she'd stay home for 10 days. She scolded me for going out with wet hair, fearing I'd catch chill, even in Florida. My grandpa called her Nurse Nancy, though I now consider her an infectious disease specialist. And because she lived this way for decades, she wasn't concerned about COVID nor anxious to be vaccinated. I don't go anywhere, she said. That meant instead of visiting, I had to settle for phone calls. In her last few days, she was too weak to speak, but I know she heard me. This past January, it was heartbreaking to lay eyes on her after 3 years at the entrance to a funeral chapel as traffic honked impatiently and the attendant sprayed us with Lysol. Weeks later, our family arrived in Florida to stay with my parents at their condo. My mom asked if we'd like to join her at my grandma's apartment, where she spent most afternoons, to help clean out and see what we might want. Yes, I said, even as my daughter's eyes teared up. I knew what she was thinking. It would hurt our hearts to walk in without seeing her, on her feet, with her walker, and then in a wheelchair, saying, "Hello, dear girls." I knew it would be the most painful moment of the trip. I was mistaken. The worst pain occurred 90 minutes earlier when I jumped into the ocean for a hot second and got stung in the thigh by a Portuguese man-o-war. The venom had festered down the leg. Red dots marched toward a spreading patch of inflamed skin, like a thought bubble bloated with my dread. "Oh gosh," was all my mother could say. "Look at that." We didn't have Grandma there to say, "Oh, that's nothing, that'll heal, worry not." As Mom handed me a pile of silk scarves and cashmere sweaters, I burrowed my face inside and caught, to my surprise and delight, the unmistakable whiff of Grandma's embrace. That bouquet of nicotine, spearmint, and cedar wove right into my nostrils to dispel the anxiety clouding my brain. "Hi, Nanny Bird," I said. I wore the scarf to urgent care the next day, gripping her leather wallet. Bacteria had entered the puncture, and I had developed cellulitis. The doctor ordered a shot of Rocephin immediately, which the nurse gave me after wrapping up a heated 10-minute call with her mother. This would have caught my grandmother's attention, creating the diversion she needed. She refused to let medical angst get the best of her. Last year, when her doctor told her she had to either amputate her leg or go into hospice, My 95-year-old, 80-pound grandmother said, "I can't decide. Let me think." Dr. Schuster made the decision easy when he told her that in hospice, she could smoke as much as she wanted. At urgent care, I tried to breathe the scarf through my mask to keep her close. The doctor traced the infection with a surgical marker and told me that if it crept beyond the lines, I should go to the emergency room. I watched those markings obsessively when I wasn't watching my mother's face. This time, she said what I needed to hear. "Don't worry, it'll heal." As the infection seeped into the line that was blurred with my nervous sweat, I wound the scarf around my fingers. Eventually, the patch retreated and faded. I kissed the gauze in gratitude. Back home, I opened the wallet. I took out my insurance card and then nudged free each of my grandma's cards just to receive another jolt of her presence. Her Florida non-driver's ID, her Palm Beach County library card, and in between, her vaccination card, 2 doses of Moderna from December 2021. We were so close to seeing you, Grandma. But as always, you were there when I needed you.